Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the Utah Hockey Club, a team that's in the playoff conversation at the moment, kind of just discussing if they'll actually be in the postseason by the end of year one. So before we get started with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. Being said, let's get on into it. So this is of course year one in Utah, as a team previously spent decades in the desert of Arizona, and there was not a lot of good in that time, but there were a couple moments that you could say put a smile on the face of the fan base. The most recent and likely one that was kind of big was their playoff appearance back in 2020. And since then, people have kind of wondered when this side was going to be able to go on and make a run at the Cup. And this year looks like it could possibly be the year. I know a couple of years ago they had that opportunity, about 50-some games in, and had a long losing streak. But hey, this time we're looking optimistic at this state, as they are, of course, now in a new state. And this team, while not in the playoffs at the moment, if the playoffs started today, is just outside of it, as they're 2 points back of the Dallas Stars, which is kind of unfortunate because they did just play Dallas and lose to them 3-2. And had they been able to pick up 2 points there, they actually would be on the inside there as a final wildcard spot. And as a side that's just really in a good position. I know they've lost 2 games in a row now, but they've been able to pick up points in 11 out of their past 13 games, and are a team that you feel like has been able to rebound pretty nicely after a little bit of a rough stretch there, or prolonged rough stretch, I should say. So now we wonder what exactly for them for the rest of the year. And if we're just looking at the remaining strength of schedule, you could probably see a huge reason to be optimistic if you're a Utah fan. They rank 25th in this time. That is good. They've got 3 games against teams like Seattle that, of course, has lost, I think at this stage, 5 in a row. 3 games against Chicago, a bottom feeder or bottom side team, I should say. 2 games against a team like Nashville, who has not had a very good year. And then 2 games against Detroit, which actually might be a bad thing if McClellan kind of gets some buzzing, as of course, at time of recording this, they fired Derek Lalonde in this day. So it's going to be interesting to watch how that plays out. But I do think that for this, you can't really focus too much on the schedule, especially when you're not in it at the moment. You just got to chip away at it. And I think that they have a pretty important game, I think, against a team like the Dallas Stars upcoming. They just played them and lost. You'd really like to be able to go out there and regain some ground and get 2 points, really ideally get a regulation win, and just focus on, again, doing what they've done so much lately, which is just picking up points. Whether they lose or win, they are piling up the points, which is getting them back in that conversation when it really looked like they probably shouldn't be there. And of course, too, one of the things that's really going well for them at the moment is a lot of their former first-round picks are leading the charge. Clayton Keller, Dylan Guenther, and of course Logan Cooley, all are averaging a point per game or over their past 13 games. These guys, again, part of the long-term future, some of them getting hefty contracts, and it is promising to see, especially with a guy like Guenther, who I think at the start of the year signed a pretty big contract over the summer. That is all fine and dandy, part of something that could be going well here for Utah. And then you have somebody like Mikhail Sergachev, who I think is also a very interesting player here. Relatively young guy, a guy that's achieved a lot in his career, that still seems to be very hungry. It's hard because I think a lot of times when you've got a player that's seen success on the ice and then also been able to get a decent amount of money, maybe they might not be as driven, but this looks like it could be a career year for Mikhail, as he is set to probably pass his career high for points, but also block shots. So you love to see that from a defenseman, especially when you're wondering maybe, is he going to be as good as you think he could be? Again, his Tampa Bay days were pretty productive at times especially, but he is looking like he could be a good contributor here, and you like to also see a guy that has made that money, that has seen that success, still putting his body out there on the line and also getting points. So that is really cool. Then you, of course, have somebody like Oli Mata and then Ian Cole. They, I believe right now, are part of this trio that are near like the top 15 or 20 for block shots. Ian Cole, I think, is at the moment right now second in the entire league. Then when you focus on the PK, you have Cole and then Sergachev as 2 of the top 7 defensemen, maybe just in general, for block shots. So that is really beneficial there. I know I've said before, block shots may be a little bit overrated as a stat, but boy, oh boy, do you really like to see him out there when you're on the PK and you're just trying to make sure the puck doesn't go into the back of the net. And then you've got the serious disruptor, Annette Vejmelka. Vejmelka is a player that I think before we've already seen had some struggles in his career, but has been able to have a really productive year, 8-2, played 20 games, having close to a .920 save percentage, and is underrated in contention for the Vezina. He's putting together what I would consider very Jacob deGrom stat. I don't really follow baseball as much anymore, but from what I remember, especially deGrom's good years with the Mets weren't ending in Cy Youngs, he had a period where he would have just amazing seasons and the team would not help him out and he wouldn't pick up a lot of wins. In Vejmelka's case, with some of the numbers you've seen, especially the fact that he's had 6 games where he's allowed 1 goal or got the shutout, you would expect maybe more wins, but he's not really got that. But one thing that's really a big positive for him here at the moment is the fact that he had a recent 5-game win streak. So again, getting wins as of late, which has been part of this team, being able to go out there and see really good production and having a career year for a side that really probably could use it at this stage. because Vejmelka has been their starter for a moment. And if he's having some ups and downs, they're going to be feeling it. But at this stage right now, things have been pretty good. They always could be better, but he's looking like one of the better goalies in the league for this season. And I know the 9 goals saved above average or whatever he has at the moment may not seem like a lot, but in a low-scoring sport like this matters. It may not be like basketball where there could be 250 combined points between the teams. We very realistically could see a game in 2-1, 3-2, something along those lines, and to have a player have a good year where he is maybe, allowing 1 goal in a game at the frequency that he's done in about a third of his games that he's played. It is absolutely huge and amazing to see for him because at times I know he's kind of been a meme. They had a long losing streak a little bit ago, a couple years back, and I think he had kind of a bad stretch during all this, and it's just all been kind of a downhill spiral at times, but in this case, things continue to be going up. Him and Philip Gustafsson are part of a lot of these names, like Anthony Solars as well, that are pushing for an interesting Vezina race. I know Connor Hellebuyck will probably go out there and win it. I'm getting off track here, but this was just to say there is somebody in net right now that could be having a really good under-the-radar season. I'm sure Utah doesn't mind the fact that he is kind of flying under the radar right now. So what now after talking about this team for a little bit? Well, I think that they're probably not going to go out there and make the playoffs. There's teams that are probably more expected and more likely to go out there and make it, or at least they should. But there are some opportunities. Again, Dallas kind of underperforming. And one team that we're really honing in on here as a Vancouver Canucks fan, unfortunately, is Vancouver. A side that's got 2 wins over their past 8 games, I believe, with a lot of internal friction, it seems, with the whole Pettersson and then Miller situation. Things are uncomfortable after having a really good start and persevering and talking about, oh, well, they are getting some of these names back. You're, of course, getting Thatcher Demko back, and things are going relatively well. They're the road warriors and whatnot. Seems like things are kind of falling apart right now, which is a great opportunity for a team like Utah to go out there and strike and maybe go out there and pass them for a potential wild card spot. And then again, I still am of the opinion Dallas will prevail. But with some upcoming games against some of these teams, you would like to see Utah go out there and battle it out. And I think that this team, at the end of the day, even if they don't make it, is still a side that you can root for, and ideally would probably go in there and make it as long as Vancouver doesn't get kicked out. But even if they do, I wouldn't be completely upset. This team sees a lot of their former first-round picks play with them, and that's really just cool. I mean, looking at a guy like Barrett Hayton, he may not be a star, but he's played with them for a bit now. He's having a good season off the draw and is getting about 15 minutes a night. Just somebody that may not end up going out there and winning the heart by any means, but it's cool to see him and guys like Lawson Krause. Now, I know some of you that are really deep into the pool say, hold up, Lawson was not a former first-round pick for them. He was a former first-round pick for Florida, but he's played his entire career with them. So again, it kind of holds up true here. And whether it comes down to, guys saying, well, I'm going to get more minutes and more money staying with this team, or them just genuinely liking it, followed with other things like Gunther and then Cooley and then Clayton all being there, I think it does speak to possibly a good team culture, as other guys like Vejmelka talked about his love for Arizona and just the guys that he's playing with. We've talked about this before, but I feel like it's really special. And then two, you're seeing names like Olli Mata that are seeing a kind of a new sale, or getting wind in their sail, if you will, as he was traded over from Detroit, and he had 0 points in 7 games and is now about half a game pace, a little bit under, I think, at the moment, but is getting about 6.5 more minutes a night and is one of those members of the blue line that is willing to sacrifice their bodies, a former 2-time Stanley Cup champion as well. And while this team is still not really a Stanley Cup threat by any means, they are a team that can root for, because I think, again, too, we're not far away from when we saw them having a comedically bad ownership group that felt like they were written by a Disney kind of plethora there, trying to make it into a kids movie, something along those lines. Instead, we are, kind of seeing the reality of that, where ownership was just absolutely abysmal, and it wasn't a movie made to dramatize things. Instead, these players had to live through that. They're getting more stability now. They're seeing some of these guys that, again, maybe aren't stars, but are getting experience, that are still young. Krause and Hayden, some of those names as well that we've talked about there, where I feel like, again, maybe if you are a third-line guy that isn't going out there and averaging a point per game, it's not the end of the world, because you could still be getting better and better under the radar as a third-line guy that is getting more experience, or is at that stage where you should kind of be entering your prime. So again, I don't think Utah will make the playoffs, but boy, oh boy, I really hope they can kind of continue to make things interesting here. If a side like Dallas fell out, that would be crazy. If Vancouver fell out, again, it happens, but, I ideally would like to see them make it. But anyway, what are your thoughts for Utah in year 1? Will they be in the playoffs by the end of the year? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you love hockey, all right? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.